I'm still unsure if you're recording or not.
I'm still recording. This is a review recap, dude.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Hey, can you move your mic back a little?
Yeah, I can do that.
It's coming in a little loud. It's coming in a little loud, bro.
Yeah, bro. You're giving off a lot of testosterone.
Me?
No?
So slap those nipples and let's get ready.
Oh, whistleblower. That's the word I was looking for.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Mind Movers Podcast. Podcast number 10, Milestone. I am one of the hosts at youth_thinking, and I'm joined by my comrade, freedom fighter, soul survivor, and whatever else you want to call him.
What's up, guys? This is Brando. You can find me on Twitter at mind_of_peace. And this will be number 10. We're bringing on guest Amber Lyon, who is a 3-time Emmy Award-winning journalist. And she used to be a CNN correspondent. You could also say she is a, what's the word? I don't know. I'm looking for some word, but I can't find it. Anyway, she's going to come on. She's going to talk to us about psychedelic medicines from around the world. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Awesome. All right, well, I guess I'll jump into the technical stuff real quick, and then we can jump into Herb of the Week. Sound good?
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, make sure you guys find us on iTunes. If you're on an iPhone, you're going to have to go to the App Store and look up the podcast app, and then search Mind Movers Podcast will come up. I think we're the only ones that come up, and you can subscribe, and that way you won't have to worry about checking to see if any of our podcasts are uploaded, because they'll download straight to your phone. We also upload to SoundCloud, but those only hold 4 hours, so most recent podcasts are up there. We're trying to get them on YouTube. It's going to take some time. Also, we have a brand spanking new website, mindmoverspodcast.com. Highly recommend you check that out, preferably on a desktop because it looks a lot nicer, but you can visit it on your mobile device too. Book recommendations are listed on there. Herbs that we talk about on the podcast are listed on there with a ton of information. Thank you, Brando. All the episodes are on there as well. And if you want to contact us or tweet out a question, comment, concern, use hashtag MindMoversPodcast on Twitter, and we'll see that, and we'll respond as fast as we can. If you want to send us something more personal, we have a contact form on our website. No booty.
Yeah,
I think that's
just
it
give
for the
us
technical
just
stuff.
give us your thoughts. We don't need the booty stuff. All right, we're gonna go into Herb of the Week. Today's Herb of the Week is Burdock. Scientific name is Arctium lapa, also known as beggar's button. It's part of the Compositae family. Parts used are the root, seeds, and leaves. Its energy is cool. Taste is bitter and slightly sweet. Systems affected are the lungs, stomach, kidney, and liver. Biochemical constituents, essential oil, and inulin. Properties include alterative, which is a blood purifier, diuretic, which increases urine flow, diaphoretic, which induces sweating, and it's also packed with nutrients. It's used for skin diseases, blood purification, urinary problems, and it's also a blood tonic. It promotes healthy kidneys and other parts of the digestive system, which purify and filter the blood. Purifying the blood and the body of toxins also helps to clear skin diseases like psoriasis and eczema and all that nasty stuff. Try drinking burdock tea and then taking a hot bath to sweat out toxins or even clear stuff on your skin. It contains essential oil, which when ingested induces sweating, which removes toxins from the body. Sweating also cools the body, which is why it can also be used to clear fevers and other heat-related disorders. So if you want to drink some of that tea again and hop in the bath when you got a fever or the flu or something, it'll severely help reduce all that head stuff. Chinese burdock is called gobo and is eaten raw like a vegetable. They say it can be used as an aphrodisiac and to remove nervous energy. This part's really cool. The Swiss inventor George Maestro, I think this was back in like 1950s or maybe a little bit earlier, he noticed how burdock seeds were capable and constantly latching to his clothes and his dogs, and that they were hard to get off. He studied them under a microscope and noticed the seeds had little hooks on them on the end, and he used this research to invent Velcro. So Velcro pretty much came from burdock seeds. And in some languages, the word for burdock and Velcro are the same thing. So I think it's pretty cool how, that's just another product out there that was inspired by nature, as are many. All right, what book you been getting into?
I haven't been able to read that much lately. I still am trying to sit down and read The Power of Now.
That's good.
What about yourself? You got something new?
Well, I've been I haven't read that much lately, but I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on Mountain Rose Herbs, their YouTube page, and they kind of like teach you how to like make different teas and tinctures and all this cool stuff. So I've been getting into those. Also, for you listening, you can purchase burdock root and other herbs that we've mentioned on the podcast from mountainroseherbs.com. If you go through our website links, it'll support the podcast, so we appreciate that. But there's this one book I read about, I want to say a month or two ago. It's called One Man's Wilderness, and there's some quotes at the end in the chapter Reflections that I'm just going to read out real quick because they just blow my mind every time. I've reread this chapter like multiple times because it just blows my mind every time. They keep expanding their needs until they are dependent on too many things and too many other people. I wonder how many things in the average American home could be eliminated if the questions were asked, must I really have this? I guess most of the extras are chalked up to comfort and saving time. Funny thing about comfort is one man's comfort is another man's misery. And I just... like there's a lot of quotes like that.
Wow.
And this was written by an old guy. He was like 50 years old, and basically the book's about his life and his journal that he wrote when he lived off the grid in the Alaskan frontier. And this dude built his own cabins. He got his own food, all kinds of crazy stuff. He was a real handy guy, but he was really deep and meaningful. He thought a lot. The good feeling I get out of lungfuls of mountain air and draughts of sweet water from the snows is probably as good as any high I would get out of a bottle or a pill. I have learned patience, learned to take my time and try to do the job right by first figuring it out. No sense to rushing and going off half-cocked. There's plenty of time out here. No sense complaining if the weather turns sour. Make your job fit the day.
Hashtag Nature University.
Yeah, hashtag Nature's University. 8.5 miles can be covered in minutes with a car on an expressway. But what does a man see? What he gains in time, he loses in benefit to his body and his mind. At my pace, I can notice things. A bubble on the water, an Arctic turns breast-tinged with the blue reflection of the lake. The landscape is not just a monotonous blur on either side. The stroke of a paddle moves you forward about 11 feet. Sometimes I get lost in the rhythm of the paddling. The play of muscles in one's arms and shoulders and the feel of palm against worn wood are preferable to glancing at a speedometer. Nature provides so many things if one has the eye to notice them. It is a pleasure to see what you can use instead of buying it all packaged and ready-made. How
Definitely.
does a man on an assembly line feel any pride in the final product that rolls out at the other end? And the last one. I
Dang,
have
son,
found,
that's a lot of quotes.
yeah, this guy is
Are
just
you just reading the book to me? I'm just
the whole
kidding.
thing. No, all right, the last one. I have found that some of the simplest things have given me the most pleasure. They didn't cost me a lot of money either. They just worked on my senses. Did you ever pick very large blueberries after a summer rain? Walk through a grove of cottonwoods, open like a park, and see the blue sky beyond the shimmering gold of the leaves? Pull on dry woolen socks after you've peeled off the wet ones? Come in out of the sub zero and shiver yourself warm in front of a wood fire. The world is full of such things. And that is a couple quotes from One Man's Wilderness. And it's about the life of Richard Proenick, and that's written by Sam Keith. So check that out.
Is that
That's
listed
on our
on our
website.
podcast or website? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I also think it might be kind of cool to talk about some of the feedback we've been getting via email and on Twitter.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking to Amber right now.
She is online, but feel free to go in on it. We'll add her in a few moments.
Okay. We receive a lot of tweets on Twitter, and I'm speaking for myself, but I'm sure Brando agrees with a lot of it also. But it does mean a lot to us when you guys tweet us, especially the ones that they shouldn't be any different or categorized. They're all really awesome, but the ones that really shock me or like kind of throw me down and I'm just like, wow, that's crazy, is the ones where people are like, I don't feel so alone now with my thoughts. I don't feel like I'm the only one thinking this stuff. And those ones, man, I always have to huge grin on my face when I read those, because it's just, you actually feel like you're doing something. And I'm sure you feel the same way. Like, instead of just, I don't know, I guess we're not really doing that much. I mean, we're talking into a mic, but it feels cool that I used to be in that spot. You said you were in that spot where it's just like you're at school and you're at home. And that's all you really, and then you have a couple friends. And it never seems to go past kind of the surface talk. It never goes that deep. And it was almost like taboo. It's almost like taboo to talk about these deep topics. I just want everyone to know that I really appreciate all the tweets, all the ideas. I learn a lot from you guys. And you guys say that you like what we do. Well, like we said in the education podcast, it's a two-way street. We learn from you, you guys learn from us. So I guess I'll drop a couple names because we got some emails. Jesse, thank you. Kayla, thank you. And Alyssa, thank you. Those were emails sent to us from going to our website. And they were awesome. So, awesome content. Awesome. It wasn't really ideas. It was more just like thank you. A lot of thank yous. So, I just thought it'd be cool to kind of give them a little shout out, I guess.
Also, I wanted to mention, I know, a lot of people are sending those emails and you say how, well, we can connect to what you're saying. You're kind of like speaking the thoughts that are in my mind. And you're kind of making that connection with us. But don't just make that connection with us, okay? Because there's a lot more people out there. There's a ton of people out there that you need to connect with, because it's not just people that listen to the Mind Movers podcast or us or, that one friend of yours. It's everyone. I mean, there's a lot of people out there. That kid that is in your class or that down the street, maybe you guys don't have any similar interests. Maybe he likes football, you like soccer. But that doesn't mean that your thoughts aren't the same. So kind of just go out and strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
And, see what happens. You'll be surprised at how many people think the same way you do, because I've been noticing that a lot lately. Like, I have a lot of friends that a year ago or even a couple months ago, I wouldn't expect them to care about any of the stuff that I've begun to care about. And lately I've been hanging out with some of those old friends and we've been getting into these deep conversations. And it's like, wow, I thought these guys would know nothing about these topics, but they're really educated on these things and they care deeply about these things. So, go out there and connect. You'll be very surprised at the friends you make.
I
And, an enemy is just a friend that you haven't met yet.
Nice. Dropping the quotes.
I like
Yeah, I
doing.
agree with that. I was thinking about that when I was walking out of class. I was just like, the people that think the way you do, or if it's super abstract or intuitive, or think or have a rare personality type, they're all around you, and sometimes it's difficult to find them, but like Brando said, those are the type of people you have to build a relationship with until they trust you to share those ideas. Because you're at a point in your life where a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about this stuff. And obviously, Brando and I have gotten past that point of being kind of nervous about bringing up that kind of stuff in conversation. It took a while, but you can change. You can get better at kind of slipping those in without going too overboard. I guess I would just refrain from being that guy at like work that someone's talking about different kinds of coffee beans and you're like, "Hey, did you know that aliens?" It's like, don't do that. Kind of ease into it, and then you'll get better at it.
And now joining us is Amber Lyon. She is a 3 times Emmy Award-winning journalist. She used to be a CNN correspondent until she became a whistleblower who kind of, you know, said, "Hey, CNN is censoring lies and stuff like that." So she kind of just said, "Screw them," and she's kind of just been doing her own thing, which is awesome. She's been all around the world, this past year exploring psychedelics and learning about different, sacred plants that they use in other countries. So we're excited to hear about all of that stuff.
Yeah, I used to be a CNN investigative journalist for about 2 years. I worked for their documentary and investigative unit, and am no longer employed by them. They since dissolved our entire unit. So now I'm working freelance, and working on starting my own news organization devoted to psychedelic news and news on natural medicines and therapies.
Wow, that's awesome. What exactly was the reason that you left CNN?
Well, they dissolved our unit, but in the process, I was having issues while I was there getting accurate coverage on air. I had a documentary I produced on the Bahrain regime, which is a pro-U.S. regime, and how they were abusing their people. And CNN International never aired the documentary. And I later found out, with the help of journalist Glenn Greenwald, that CNN has been taking money from pro-U.S. dictator type regimes worldwide in exchange for producing positive documentaries about these regimes that really are just propaganda. And they've been airing these sprinkled into the regular programming with little or no disclosure to viewers. So it's very misleading, not only to the public, but to CNN's own journalists. As a journalist there, as I was investigating the Bahrain regime, I wasn't made aware that at the same time, the Bahrain had been paying CNN for positive content. So that caused quite a bit of tension, I should say, and also just disappointment as a journalist. I really trusted the network and thought I was going to be able to really enhance my career while I was there. And I just felt like constantly when I was trying to do real muckraking journalism, I kept running into roadblocks. And so it became really difficult to just do my job. And then eventually CNN decided to get rid of their whole investigative and documentary unit, and 60 of us, I think it was around 60, were all let go and asked to reapply. And then at that point, I left the network.
Wow.
Nice. I was gonna ask, I was gonna mention that I noticed that people like David Seaman, yourself, Lee Camp, there's a few others, are leaving wherever they were at and trying to start their own news organization. Are you finding that to be difficult or actually rather easy?
I just find it for me to be ethically the only option I really have at this point. There's very few media outlets out there that I feel I can trust, and short of working for some foreign government-owned station, I'm just kind of left to have to do my own thing, and I think that's a position a lot of us journalists are in right now, and so I'm willing to take the risk, and I think it's something that's proven so far to be the right path for me, and I'm really excited, and it's amazing to be able to work for yourself. I encourage many people to take similar jumps in all fields, because when you're working for yourself, you're definitely able to have more creative freedom and just personal freedom to really be yourself, and not have to be working all of these long hours to make a paycheck for somebody else. And then, or working all these hours, pouring your life into something, and then having someone make you redundant one day and just fire you. So I always think we can. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I just think that you're better off working for yourself.
I agree with that. That leads rather well into the next question. A lot of younger people listen to this podcast, and I'm sure they would love to hear kind of the process of not really the process, but what you think the best route is when you think the company you're working for is acting unethical or doing what happened to you at CNN, because a lot of people feel afraid to kind of take that risk that you just mentioned.
Of course, I many people are afraid to do so, and I think when it gets to the point where it's bothering you and you feel like it's against your morals and it's making it hard for you to work at that company because their behavior is bothering you so much, then I think it's time to evaluate whether you should leave, or maybe even mention the behavior to superiors and see if they're able to change it first. And then after that, if still nothing changes, then leave. For example, when my documentary never aired on CNN International, I went right to the head of the network and sat in his office and asked him why it didn't air, and told him that my crew was bothered by it, to try to address the issue to see if it would be resolved, which it never was, unfortunately. But I do think if you are ultimately we have such a short time here on Earth, and you're spending your short days in a job that you're not passionate about, and you feel like you're being a cog in some evil machine that's doing more harm for the world than good, then you might as well leave and try to do something more effective and positive with your life. I mean, like I said earlier, we are on Earth for such a short amount of time. Life's too short to be unhappy in your career, and if you follow your passion, success will follow.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And a lot of it seems like it also comes down to assessing what you need and don't need, because a lot of these people who are afraid to leave their jobs are also afraid of losing things that they have, like the car, the nice clothes, the big house. And, maybe if they just took a moment and said, well, do I really need the big house? Do I really need that fancy car? Maybe I could get a job down the street and ride my bike, do something I love. Or maybe I could live in a smaller house. Do I really need all of this stuff that I'm working for all the time?
You bring up a great point, and that's something that Jack Kornfield, he's a great philosopher,
Yep.
he calls that delusion. And that's when you actually believe that material objects will bring you happiness, which is not the case. And so maybe you buy this amazing expensive car, but you spend the majority of your life worried about it being scratched. So this car that's supposed to bring you happiness instead just brings you tremendous anxiety. Or same with the house, you're constantly worried about your new couch getting dirty, or the floors, or and these objects that you bought to bring you happiness are just constantly causing you worry. And when you sit down and really evaluate that, you start to understand that love and relationships and following your true self brings you a lot more happiness than any object ever will. And so that might give you more confidence to potentially leave your job and really follow your passion. And if you're following your passion and doing something you love potentially more than anyone else in that field, it's infectious. People will see that you're passionate about that, and most likely you'll be financially successful from that. And last year I've been traveling the world working on my next project. I got rid of almost all of my material objects, almost everything, and just lived out of a backpack for a year. And it was single-handedly the happiest year of my life. And I had maybe four shirts, a pair of jeans, two pairs of shoes, a backpack, and a couple other things. And so that really taught me a valuable lesson that material objects are never going to bring you happiness. So if you spend your life living as a slave in a job you don't like to buy material objects, that's delusional.
What exactly did you do on this year-long kind of living out of the backpack experience?
I went around the world and investigating psychedelic medicines. So I've been looking at the potential for psychedelic medicines to cure mental health disorders, anxiety, depression, PTSD. I just feel like right now as a nation, we are going mad, literally.
Oh
People
yeah.
are carrying around all this bottled up trauma that they've never dealt with, even if it's just from their childhood. And they're not purging themselves of that trauma. And so it manifests itself in potentially cancer or bodily pain or these mental illnesses. And so psychedelics have proven for thousands of years to be extremely effective in treating and curing anxiety and depression and all of those other ailments that I mentioned. And they're not neurotoxic, so they don't harm your brain. They're non-addictive, and they are proving to be effective. And so I wanted to go and research them so I really know firsthand what these medicines are about, because I believe we're starting another psychedelic revolution in this country, and these medicines are going to be needed by so many people who are out there suffering right now.
I've noticed you're completely different from like any other person, because if any other person heard about these type of medicines, they might go online and research it, but that's not you. You're kind of like, I don't care what the risk is. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to dive head into it and figure this out. And it seems like you've done that kind of all your career.
Yeah, you're right. I do. I think the problem is, I think I've been lied to so many times just throughout my life that my bullshit meter's always on. And so I never take anyone else's word for anything. And so journalistically, that's really helped me, because instead of just reading other people's articles about these substances or about what was happening in Bahrain or about child sex trafficking, the list goes on and on. I actually go down and figure out and get involved in these worlds to really figure out what's really happening from my own eyes, so I can tell people through my filter, this is exactly what I witnessed. And with these psychedelic medicines, I've just witnessed many miracles. Not everyone's helped from them, but many people have been, and it's been a tremendous journey to be able to really witness these. And in order for me journalistically to report on psychedelics accurately, I knew I needed to try them and really see what they were all about. So it's been a pretty heavy year of psychedelic use around the world, especially when it comes to investigating ayahuasca and psilocybin mushrooms, also known as magic mushrooms.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I noticed that on the Joe Rogan podcast, you talked about a lot of pent-up fear, put yourself in a lot of dangerous situations, and a lot of people talked about you as a fearless type of person. I see like a person that's fearless on the outside, but perhaps maybe you had a lot going on the inside, and that's why you're so invested in psychedelics helping people. Is that true?
It is true. I went down to first try the medicines for my own bit of healing. Because while people might think that, I don't think anyone's necessarily fearless. I think what happened with me was that I just saw fear as resistance. And so I always faced it very confidently and didn't let fear ever take over and keep me from doing any stories or being in situations that were dangerous. And while that was amazing for the journalism, over the years, I was absorbing a lot of trauma and violence and just was in many close call situations. And so those had kind of put their mark on me, and I hadn't really taken the time to digest so much that had happened to me over the years. And so I was carrying around all of this built up trauma. And so that's why I first went down to try the ayahuasca, is to help get rid of that, because it was manifesting itself as pretty severe anxiety. And I found the ayahuasca worked really well at helping my body just get rid of this dark energy that I'd absorbed over the years as a journalist covering all of this conflict. And then the mushrooms were really amazing at helping get rid of the anxiety. I feel like they almost restructured part of my brain and made it nearly impossible nowadays to get anxiety. And there are several studies out there hinting at the fact that magic mushrooms, despite what the DEA might tell you, they're actually potentially can lead to neurogenesis, which is the regrowth of brain cells. And some scientists theorize that mushrooms might actually rebuild your serotonergic system, which would then heal you from depression, anxiety, PTSD, which they did for me, definitely.
Wow.
And I know they're doing studies at Johns Hopkins University that have actually proved about the positive of mushrooms.
Yeah, for sure. And that study you're talking about, more than 80% of people in that study that were given psilocybin reported having just overall improved quality of life after the experience. And 61% of the people who took place in that study described it as the single most spiritual part of their life that they've ever had. And so that was pretty, they had pretty profound results with the use of psilocybin. And they've also been using it to study it against end of life anxiety. They've taken cancer patients who've been given pretty much death sentences. They've been told they just have maybe a couple months or even a couple weeks left to live. And you can imagine that causes a ton of anxiety. And so they've been giving these cancer patients psilocybin to help reduce that anxiety. And it's worked. It's worked in all of the patients that they've given the medicine to. And so that allows them to really control their last days on earth and enjoy them with their families instead of being this anxious mess.
It was
It's
cool.
kind of.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
It was cool that you brought up that you had anxiety and it kind of helped with that, because I've always looked at anxiety, stress, depression as a lot like when your stomach growls, you feed it. You learn that early on, and it seems like your body's trying to communicate something to you when you're stressed, have anxiety, or you have depression. It's just we can't interpret that as well as, oh, I'm hungry, I just need to eat, and then my stomach will stop growling. So it's pretty cool that you brought up you had anxiety or other people have anxiety, and this psychedelics is working for that, because you're kind of answering what your body's trying to tell you.
And some people have these memories, traumatic memories, maybe from their childhood or soldiers who were out in the battlefield, stored in the subconscious region of their brain, and they can't actively access those memories on a daily basis. Yet those memories are causing them tremendous anxiety anytime they're stimulated. They're attached to fear, and they cause adrenaline rushes and flashbacks, and these poor people don't even know why they're having all these problems because they can't access those memories. And psychedelics are an incredible key to get in there and unlock the brain and pull up all of these memories and allow you to reprocess them with a sound mind, so they're no longer attached to fear.
Wow.
And they did that for me as well.
Wow, so it really is medicine, because you eat healthy, you meditate, you try to control your stress levels, but sometimes you get sick or you get put into a situation that causes you to get sick. You go to the doctor and it's like, okay, I need to take this medicine to get me over this, but I'll go straight back to eating healthy and working out and trying to avoid that. So someone got into a situation or enlisted in the army, got put into a warlike situation and got this problem. And you can't really tell someone with PTSD, oh, you need to meditate or face your fears. They need something now that will kind of help them through that so they can get back to that normal state that we're all at, so they can start meditating.
And it's nearly impossible for people who have really severe PTSD, who are chronically hyper aroused, to sit down and meditate. They have shown that psychotherapy, uh, significant amounts of psychotherapy, are effective, but these psychedelics are showing to have higher numbers of success rates. For example, if you look at MDMA, which is traditionally known as ecstasy, they have given MDMA to people, individuals, soldiers, people facing PTSD who have treatment resistant PTSD. So nothing else has worked. And when MDMA is combined with psychotherapy, they have an 83% success rate at curing PTSD compared to just MDMA or psychotherapy alone, which is just 25% success rate. So that's really profound numbers there, especially considering the fact that 22 soldiers, or even maybe more than that, a day commit suicide in the United States alone. And many of them just because they just can't handle the symptoms of PTSD. It really can become a horrific disorder that just ruins lives.
Yeah, and that blows my mind how, people would lobby to have things like this made illegal, something that could help these people who are, supposedly, as we're told, protecting us from terrorism and all this stuff. Why would you want to deny them a medicine that could help bring their life back to normal?
I think it's one of the most tragic, one of the human rights tragedies of our generation, that these medicines aren't accessible for everybody. And it is sad, but you also have to understand the nature of psychedelics, and that's that most of them are natural and they can't be patented, and they actually get in and cure what's wrong with the individual, so the individual doesn't need to keep coming back throwing money at these companies to buy
Right.
more. So that definitely plays a factor in why many of these are still illegal. And it's so unfortunate and just so tragic. And that's why, now that I've seen directly the power of these medicines, that's why I've just decided to devote my career to them. And I think that, and I do call them medicines. We've been fed so much propaganda over the years labeling these amazing compounds as drugs. They're not drugs. Natives have used them medicinally for thousands of years. It wasn't until, I guess, around 1971 that all of a sudden, according to the world, they became drugs. But really, these substances behave more as medicines, and we need to reconfigure our beliefs about psychedelics as a nation and start accepting them for widespread use.
Yeah, the word drug is just kind of a little bit vague because almost anything can be a drug if you're allowed to have that kind of control over you. I mean, watching too much TV, being addicted to TV, or eating too much, or anything that you think that you need all the time, it can be considered a drug. I mean, caffeine is one of the worst drugs we have. Everyone's addicted to caffeine, alcohol, cigarettes. These are three drugs that are legal that we're all addicted to. There's so many people that are addicted to these things, and it's just very sad.
And you mentioned caffeine. Caffeine is more toxic on your body than psilocybin mushrooms. A lot
Right.
of people don't know that. So you really just realize over and over the hypocrisy in the system, especially considering that, really, when it comes down to it, the most deadly drug on the planet is not LSD or mushrooms. There's been no known deaths from psilocybin mushrooms in history, marijuana, none of those. It's really alcohol. And alcohol kills more than 80,000 people a year. That's more than car accidents, gun deaths, and all illicit drug use combined. So if we really want to start accurately making things illegal that are harming people in this country, we should look at alcohol. And
Yeah.
I think psychedelics are the exact opposite of alcohol. Whereas alcohol numbs you out and forces you to ignore your life and your problems and delay the inevitable, which is actually facing these problems. Psychedelics actually force you to hold a mirror to yourself, sometimes brutally, while you're on them, and go through your problems one by one. They force you to go through your problems one by one and solve them. And while it may not necessarily be the most enjoyable experience for the 6 or so hours you're on these medicines, you definitely wake up the next day feeling like a better person, for sure.
Could you explain what happens before, during, and after the ayahuasca ceremony?
Yeah, before ayahuasca, you need to, some shamans say the ayahuasca experience begins 2 weeks before you actually do the ayahuasca. And that's when you're actually prepping yourself to ingest the medicine. So you're eating a what they call a dieta. That's a really healthy diet, free of red meats, free of caffeine, just to prepare your body so it's able to absorb the medicine and there's no blockages.
Right.
And then many people do ayahuasca down in Peru. They fly down to Iquitos, Peru. That's where the tourism is most popular. And so most likely people that go down there, this is what happened with me. I went to a retreat center that was offering the ayahuasca. And so I stayed on this diet, and then you're brought into at the retreat center in the middle of the jungle. You're brought into the middle of a hut, which almost looks like a yurt. And there's mats all over the ground. In the case of where I went, there were about 12 mats, and next to the mats are buckets. And that's because when you're on the ayahuasca, it's really pulling this negative energy and all of these toxins out of your body. So while you're on the medicine, it is not a pleasant experience. Ayahuasca is not a recreational drug. It's very sacred and it needs to be taken seriously. And it worries me too because I see with it spreading into the mainstream, I see it losing a little bit of its sacredness. And I think it's really important for people to understand how powerful this medicine is, and it needs to be taken seriously. And some people are throwing up the entire session, or having really massive diarrhea. Either way, it's whatever way it exits you, this trauma and this dark energy is exiting your body. And so before you take the ayahuasca, you go up and you visit the shaman and you set your intention, which is you pretty much ask the medicine. I know this sounds a little crazy. Maybe a year ago I would have thought that too, but you really do need to genuinely have an intention because that will guide your entire night. So say you go up and you say, ayahuasca, I want you to heal my depression. You need to have a set intention as to what you want that night. And odds are the ayahuasca is going to heal your depression. It's a pretty magical substance. And so you'll go up, you meet the shaman, you set your intention, you drink the ayahuasca, which tastes like it's this thick brown liquid. It tastes a little bit like coffee mixed with cough syrup. And then, I mean, it's disgusting. You almost instantly feel like you're going to gag. And then you go back and you sit down on your mat. And maybe about 20 minutes later, you start to feel just a little unusual. Maybe your heart starts racing a little more. And that's just you entering the trip. And if your ego's really fighting it and you're really scared and not really just willing to sit back and enjoy the ride, then it might be a little more difficult for you. But I always give people the advice of just kind of relaxing, floating downstream. Timothy Leary used to always say that, and knowing that this medicine isn't going to kill you, and just enjoy the learning you're going to get from the 6 hours, lay back and don't fight it. And then eventually you'll start to see sacred geometry shapes. Some people report seeing snakes and different spirits. And in the process, memories will start coming up, maybe memories you don't even remember you remembered from your childhood and throughout your life. And the medicine really just kind of gets into your head and realizes what has been traumatic for you in life and starts processing those memories. So you'll relive a lot of situations and think them through clearly. And then it lasts for sometimes 8 hours, sometimes less, sometimes more. And then you'll wake up the next day, and oddly enough, after you've been vomiting and had massive diarrhea and just been sick out of your mind, you actually wake up the next day feeling, for me at least, I felt more energized than ever. And that's because they call the purging process getting well, and you're pulling out all those toxins and bad spirits. And so it's actually making you have more energy and feel better after the experience. Also, for some, I think what happens for most people when they're on the ayahuasca is that really the medicine gets in your head and tries to figure out what's bothering you and what's causing you from opening your heart for love and accepting the universe and really being your true self. And so it just during the trip it tries to show you what's blocking you, what's keeping you from being happy. And oftentimes it will help you figure out what's been keeping you from being happy. Maybe it is that job that treats you like a slave or that toxic relationship. But either way, I have yet to meet someone who's come out of an experience feeling like it made them a worse person. Most people feel pretty cleansed.
Yep.
I actually saw a video of a guy take ayahuasca, and I think it was one of those tribes. I think Peru. Does Peru do it?
Peru, yes, of course. Peru and Brazil. That's in Ecuador as well.
I see. Yeah, and he was awake and he was talking while it was happening, but he started crying, and he explained that he had flashbacks of all these memories in his life, except it wasn't through his eyes, it was through all the other people he hurt. So like he could see himself bullying like at him. So he could feel like his nasty words towards other people. And sometimes we forget that our brain's really smart, and it can, we have feelings because of our brain, so it kind of twisted it around and put him in another person. And it was like, this is how it feels when you make fun of people, or you're rude to people, or you're nasty to people. And he just broke down and started crying because he actually had an impression of that instead of just thinking about it.
That's many people, even people I was down in Peru with when I was investigating the ayahuasca, they had similar experiences as well. I'd say more than anything, ayahuasca is a teacher, and just teaching you how to be the most happy. And when you're harming others, it's nearly impossible to be happy. And so maybe sometimes for many people, the only way to actually realize their own behaviors is to be at the other end of them. And ayahuasca is a really brilliant teacher, and I think that most people leave with profound memories like that from the experience, memories that are cemented into their brains so that it will make it nearly impossible for them to go back and continue those harmful behaviors.
It sounds like people could save a lot of money and time by just flying down to Peru and taking ayahuasca instead of going to like therapy.
I think that it just depends. I mean, I think that something I say to everyone who potentially wants to do ayahuasca is you definitely need to feel the calling and the push to go do it.
Right.
And the drive. I mean, don't let anyone else force you to do it. Don't go if you're not really feeling like you are ready to have this medicine and change your life, because otherwise the experience could be a horrific one for you. And but I do think that people are starting to bypass expensive psychotherapy and instead spend that money on ayahuasca and plane tickets. I mean, people and shamans describe it as 30 years of therapy in one night. And I believe that. There was stuff that came up during my ayahuasca experience, memories I had of my parents getting divorced from when I was 4 years old that I didn't even remember. I remembered that I needed to still process in life. And that's why the ayahuasca was so beautiful. I don't know if maybe psychotherapy would have gotten me there, but it would have been a lot of money and something that I needed a more rapid treatment. I didn't have time to wait for years of psychotherapy to work. Sometimes you can come out of an ayahuasca experience after 10 days, a completely transformed person. Not to say, but I'm not here to evangelize for ayahuasca. I'm just trying to describe my own experiences and experiences I've witnessed. And there are people who do go down there hoping to have that experience, and they're not given it. And so I just think people need to understand that it doesn't work for everybody. And some people have gone down there and they haven't had any visions, and it hasn't been effective for them. So it doesn't work for everybody, but it works for a large majority.
And I like that you brought up how you had to set your intentions, and also that the ayahuasca kind of calls you, because we spoke to crystal experts and they kind of said the exact same thing. They kind of said, well, when you're using a crystal to kind of heal you or whatever, that you need to like set your intention with it. You need to like, okay, crystal, I'm going to have a good day today. Or they also mentioned how like you might be walking along a path and you will just spot a crystal out or a rock out of all the millions of rocks on the ground. This one will just like call you. It'll catch your eye, and you'll just pick that one up, and it'll kind of change you in a way. And I feel like it's the
Exactly.
same thing for ayahuasca.
For sure. And you have to be I mean some people do go down just to expand the consciousness and really feel the medicine, but I do feel like the medicine is a medicine for a reason. It's there for healing. You really need to be in the mood, and you really need healing. I For instance, I had someone in the group who was down there when I was, who just came down because he'd heard about it on a podcast and wanted to see snakes. And I think the ayahuasca, it's pretty magical. I think the ayahuasca knew that. And so he was down there for 10 days, and the ayahuasca didn't give him one vision, nothing. So he
Wow.
paid for this expensive trip. And I've heard other similar stories. He paid for this expensive trip and then went down and didn't have any experiences whatsoever. And the shaman would every night the shaman would go in and get his most strong brew and pour this guy 3 cups, even though most of us,
Wow.
I mean, 1 cup is a high amount, and he's pouring this guy 3 cups. And we're sitting there watching, just like, okay, maybe tonight's going to be the night he'll see something, and nothing the whole trip. And I now that I know more about the medicine, I think it's because the medicine knew he wasn't down there for healing. He was just down there to get fucked up, excuse my language.
It's fine.
And so that tends to be, a bit of an issue. So I just think you really need to be in need of healing. And the guy who went down is an amazing individual. And I think he learned a lot from the trip.
It does sound like that's a teacher. I mean, the way you put it sounds exactly like a teacher. It's like it basically told that guy, hey, you're not serious about this, so I'm not going to reveal anything to you. And you kind of went there with a mentality of, I want to get better, I want to learn, and open to the experience. So it's kind of like a teacher that was like, all right, this is all the things that you should have been paying attention to but have been shoving in a closet, which we all do. We all like to put those memories or past experiences or things that we do wrong in the back of our brains and never really take the time to think about those things, to face our ego and kind of be like, all right, I need to stop doing this. I need to stop being this way. So that does sound like a teacher.
Oh, for sure. We had one guy who was next to me during the ceremonies. He was so sick of hearing the violent purging. Just thought it was distracting, because you're sitting there and you're in the ceremony and people are like, "Bleh." I mean, it's really, they're vomiting from the depths of their souls, and it gets distracting. And so one night he decided to sneak his iPod into the ceremony so he could listen to meditation music instead of the Icaros. The Icaros is the song that the healers sing. It's got a little bit of a creepy tone to it, but it helps the medicine move. It sends a vibration that helps the medicine move through your body and really guides the spirits in the ceremony. And so he, instead of listening to the Icaros and the vomiting, he popped in his iPod and laid back, drank the medicine. And he started noticing about an hour into the ceremony that he wasn't feeling anything. And so he's like, usually by now I'm way off in another dimension. So he pulled out his earbuds and then laid back down. And right at that time, a little gremlin popped up in front of his face and said, "Are you going to take this seriously now?" And
Wow.
then bam, he was shot out into the universe, into the trip.
Wow. It sounds
Yeah.
like that was his ego's last trick. Hey, bring in the iPod. This music or this purging is annoying to listen to, and he listened to his ego and the teacher was like, all right, if you're going to listen to your ego, I'm not showing you anything.
Exactly.
So it's kind of cool that he experienced that within that trip, though, to take out his earbuds, because now he has a great story to tell everyone.
Oh yeah, of course. When he told me it that night, and we could not stop laughing, because as I said earlier, there's just something very motherly, teacher like about the medicine, and it's a force to be reckoned with, and it definitely is constantly teaching you lessons.
I feel like mushrooms are very similar to ayahuasca, however, maybe slightly less strong and a bit more accessible, with the high rate of people using antidepressants, which is like, I think it's like 1/10 of our country or whatever of a certain age group is on antidepressants, and that's insane because recent studies show that antidepressants work only as effective as a placebo.
Hmm.
And I feel like maybe we should be just handing out some mushrooms.
Well, I agree, and I'm really putting my bets on mushrooms getting legalized. I'm hoping that they're able to kind of ride on the back of the success medicinal marijuana has had, because they are so accessible and they do grow everywhere, and we're essentially by making them illegal, we're saying that nature's illegal. And with the mushrooms, sometimes people are cured of their anxiety and depression after just 4 or 5 trips. Whereas a lot of these antidepressants aren't necessarily, they're kind of band-aids over the bullet wound. They're not really getting down there in the core and helping people purge themselves of these traumas they've been carrying around their whole life. And that's why the mushrooms are really effective. And then that combined with scientists believing that they actually lead to the growth of brain cells. I mean, isn't that against everything the Schedule 1 classification is about?
Sorry,
They're
guys, we
telling
got
us,
it completely wrong.
yeah. Oops, it actually grows brain cells. I mean, I feel more intelligent after mushroom sessions. Like my attention is greater. I'm able to absorb more knowledge, and I just feel that they have made profound changes in my brain. And I haven't had any scientific monitoring, but sometimes when we can't necessarily explain all the science behind psychedelics, because there's a lot of quote unquote mystics involved, then I think you need to listen to anecdotes, and I'm not the only one claiming that the psilocybin has absolutely transformed my life. I think it's one of the most incredible compounds known to the brain, and it would be, if everybody could have access to this, I think it would really help change the course and path of humanity.
I've been reading a lot of studies lately about how uh, depression has been linked to our lack of nature in our life. And then Paul Stamets also says that mushrooms, mushroom mycelium to be specific, is like the internet of the nature, the way it kind of transforms and sends all the information throughout the trees and stuff. Could it be that ingesting these mushrooms is like having access to nature? It's like going on the internet, except nature's internet, and you're kind of getting that experience that you haven't had all your life.
And you feel that way when you're on them, definitely. I mean, I've had many visions of plants and trees growing, and just really natural visions when I'm on the mushrooms. And when you are on them too, you feel a lot more connected to nature, and you almost feel like you're communicating with nature more than you ever have in your life. And many a people have turned vegetarian or vegan after mushroom experiences because they've had such profound connection with not only nature but animals as well while they're on the experience.
About how much time do we have with you left?
Probably, oh, it's 57. About, oh geez, guys, it sucks. I have to leave early. Probably about a couple more minutes.
I don't know if we could fit a question in there. Maybe talk a little bit about reset.me, because I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, of course. We're hoping to become the next Huffington Post of psychedelic and drug war news. And so we're really hoping to connect this community of individuals who are absolutely passionate about psychedelics with people in need of healing, and also connect people with healing centers, and then produce accurate journalism by experienced reporters. And so with Reset Me, it's people who need to hit the reset button in life. We're really encouraging them to come to the site to learn about all of these alternative therapies and psychedelics that are being used to cure depression, anxiety, PTSD, cluster headaches, cancer, and various illnesses. And I think what we really need with this site is we really are looking to start by really collecting a group of teachers, people who are experienced with these medicines, to really connect them with people coming in to the site who don't know anything. They're starting from square one. And so we're building up a large forum section and really making a call out to those on the internet who are passionate about psychedelics and knowledgeable about them to really uh, hopefully visit our forums and stay in there and help us build this community and help educate others who come to the forums seeking knowledge. And so that's what we're trying to do right now, is just really gather all these people on the internet who are passionate about these medicines and invite them to join this community in a role to help them to help us really connect with people who are new to the medicines. And
Well,
so we're hoping to launch toward the end of April. As of now, we're on schedule to do so. Things may change though with web design and coding and everything.
Of
You just
course.
never know. But that's when we're set to launch, and we're really looking forward to bringing this message to a more mainstream audience that hasn't been connected with the medicines yet, and just really calling on people to help us out. I mean, we can't do this on our own, and we really need community support.
well, we would probably love to help out. We know quite a bit of people on Twitter that have a lot of followers, and it's not like we're actors or interviewers. We're just a bunch of kids that have a ton of followers. So you have, within our friend group combined like over 100,000 followers, and they're all these people from the younger generation that like hippie type ideas, crystals and psychedelics. So if you ever need help, just let us know, because we can always promote reset.me. It seems like a great cause, and the community that we have are kind of itching for something like this. So we can always try to help promote it. Just have
And
to
it's
let us
such a
know.
beautiful community, and I can't wait to interact more with the community and really welcome them into the site. And for now, you can follow us on Twitter at resetme underscore or reset.me. You can head to our temporary site that's been set up now until we launch, and follow our social media accounts, and we'll keep you updated as to when the site's going to launch. We're also going to be looking for people to share their personal stories with the medicines. We're running a rolling collection, hopefully to be the biggest one on the web, of personal stories worldwide of psychedelic use medicinally. And then we're going to need people too, if they want to, if they're have a talent for writing and want to write articles. Or we also have a section on the site where people can share news stories about the medicines, and so there's a little bit of something for everyone. And above all, we're just hoping to unite this community and take those who already have knowledge and then work together to share that knowledge with people in need.
And there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be successful. I mean, you can't see how big this movement is because they're all on Twitter. They're not, out in a field as it was in the 60s. So, it's very large, and I think it will be successful.
Well, thank you. And you guys are so wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it, and keep up the amazing work.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we really enjoyed having you on. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for taking some time out of your day to be on the podcast.
Hey, no problem. And I'll be in touch when we're closer to launching. Maybe we could do a podcast after launch and just kind of see what you guys think of the site, and we can update you on any of our plans and ways that the community can continue to get involved.
Yeah, please keep in touch, because we'll be glad to help out.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
Definitely have you on again. If you want to just let people know where they can find you real quick, because I know you got to go.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on Twitter at Amber Lyon, as well as I have a personal website, amberlionlive.com. And if you pay attention to both of those, I'm starting a web-based show and a podcast here in a couple weeks, and I'll have updates on there about that. And we're going to also be discussing the medicines there too. So a lot of psychedelic content in store, and I'm really excited to provide an outlet for people who are passionate about the medicines as well, for them to really connect with others.
That's awesome. If you need help with podcasting, let me know.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks,
Steve's
guys,
your
so
guy.
much.
Thank you so much.
It was such a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Wow.
That was great.
That was amazing. Are you recording?
Yeah, she brought a lot of energy on that one.
Oh yeah,
You want to
totally.
just do like a quick review, quick recap?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna open up with WoW as I always do.
Wow. That was awesome.
That was
I'm glad we got reset.me in at the last second
well.
because
I knew she would mention it because that's like a
nice.
big thing. But
That
yeah,
I didn't know it was like that though. I didn't know that that's what she was trying to do, and that's a brilliant idea. And it's like we could totally help her with that because we
oh
have the
yeah,
audience. She has like the website and all the tools and the experts, and we have the audience to drive there. So it's just like, wow, what
yeah.
a
Oh yeah, I'll
connection.
definitely. I've already promoted it a couple times. So
Yeah. And I guess would I would probably promote it, but it's like I didn't know that's what it was. So now it's like I don't even feel like I'm promoting it. I feel like I'm guiding people to a place that's very important and entertaining and what they're looking for, what this audience that we have is looking for.
yeah, because promoting and supporting are kind of two different things. You know, when you promote something, you're kind of like
Supporting's a
promote.
good word. I like that.
Yeah, promoting is more like, it's not really something I use or care about, but hey, go buy this thing.
Yeah.
But supporting is like, whether they're paying me or not, I'm gonna support this. Check it out because it's fucking amazing and it's helping me. It's helping other people. It's a good thing. So there's very distinct
Support.
differences between the words.
Yeah, and this is definitely something that like a lot of people will support. I mean, the way she was describing it, it sounds perfect. Like it's a brilliant idea. I don't know. It seems like it'll be super easy to support something like that. Wow. Yeah. See, it's like we got to push that. We got to get that up to a
Yeah,
high
I mean, like
amount.
I
So
said, I've tweeted it out like 4 or 5 times already. So that was amazing podcast. The energy that she brought to the podcast was amazing, and it was also very similar to the energy brought by Tara and Lourdes from healingcrystals.com. I
starting to
felt
see a trend here.
yeah, I felt a very strong connection between her energy and their energy, which is why I actually brought that crystal thing up when she was talking about the ayahuasca.
I almost asked if Amber was wearing a crystal during this podcast because maybe that's the reason.
That could be it. The energy is connecting.
You know, someone suggested on Twitter that we have women on the podcast, and I thank them for that tweet because it seems like a whole lot of women are bringing it to this podcast.
Yeah, they're I mean,
They're bringing the energy.
not to say that the males are not bringing energy, but
Oh, definitely not.
lately the women have been just
They've been killing it. Let's be real. Yeah, I really liked how she brought up the fact that she was living out of a backpack for a year, and I didn't like that she brought that up because I have the temptation to do that all the time, and I kind of have to be like, Steven, don't do that. And you know, she said that, and it's just like, man, I've always wanted to kind of do that, and it's so tempting to just leave everything.
yeah. It's
Grab
like,
a
well,
backpack.
maybe I should do that. Maybe I should just grab my backpack and just get
Yeah.
lost for a little
When
while.
when she talked about it, I was like, oh, Amber, that might have just pushed me over. Like, now I'm doing it. Like, I've been contemplating it for so long, but now I'm going to do it.
Something like that has always been in the back of my mind. I've always had this thing in the back of my head where it's like, I just want to leave this place. I just want to leave it all behind, go out and just explore the world and just live away from all of this, catastrophe and this crazy news and all this crazy stuff.
Let's do
But
it.
then but then there's another thing in the back of my head. And this is the thing that keeps me here. It's the thing that tells me that I need to be here because I am part of the change and that I'm important and I'm a piece of the puzzle for this, this greater wave of change and evolution. So there's that thing in the back of my head that kind of keeps me, planted here on Earth.
And it might just be saying that, the time isn't right yet.
That
You
too.
look at someone like Amber Lyon, she did a lot of things before she decided to do this. And, we still have a lot of time to do those types of things too. And
Our
then
blood
maybe
is young.
and then maybe do the whole backpack thing. But I say we get to 50 podcasts, then we bail. We record ourselves with just our backpacks, you and I, longboards, exploring the United States, except for the flat, boring places. I'm just kidding. Exploring the United States, we upload we stop in at local libraries. We upload our videos to YouTube and check in and be like, "What's up, guys? This is day 30 of living out of a backpack."
Well, that sounds awesome. I mean, we're planning this, we're going to try and plan a trip this summer. So I'm thinking we can even bring recorders out there with us this summer.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to build up the subscribers, on our YouTube channel. So that way they know, like, here's where we're going to be.
Right. And not only could we, we could also take that video or that just hand recorder and upload that into a normal podcast thing too.
Yeah, you could do that. Yep. It'd be cool to get video shots too, but I just wanted to bring up that she said that because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. And she just brought it up and said she did it. And I was like, holy shit. Like, people actually do that? Like, I mean...
Not only did she, like, just do it, but from what I understand, when she did it on a whim, and she was completely unprepared. So, like, if you're going on a normal backpack trip, you double-check your gear, you make sure you have this, and this, and this, and this. There's a long-ass checklist. You plan it out, and it's, she just kind of bought her ticket, grabbed a book bag, and kind of just... She didn't even have a flashlight, she said, or anything, or spare clothes, or none of that. She just kind of went down there.
She had 4 shirts, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Like, obviously you have to be careful with that stuff,
of course.
But you can be smart on the fly. I think she probably just learned a whole lot about, living without material things, and I think that's what her goal was, is to kind of learn how to live. And she kind of separated herself to things that we're attached to that we don't believe we're are attached to. Our phones, our computers, or all our material junk that we're attached to, and we think we actually convince ourselves that we need it, that we have to have it. And she just said, screw it. I'm going to take the jump that I need to take to kind of break out of this attachment that I have.
There's back to that book I was reading, One Man's Wilderness. There's this one passage in there where it completely like kind of ties into like her life and the changes that she made. I'm going to read this real quick. News never changes much. It's just the same things happening to different people. I would rather experience things happening to me than read about them happening to others. I am my own newspaper and my own radio. I honestly don't believe that man was meant to know everything going on in the world all at the same time. A man turns on the TV and all of those commenters bombard him with the local, the national, and the international news. The newspapers do the same thing, and the poor guy with all the immediate problems of his own life is burdened with those of the whole world.
Wow. That's intense.
Yeah, and this is a man who, he's never taken psychedelics. From what I've read, he's never taken psychedelics. He's just connected to nature. So it kind of goes back to that thing. It's like, well, do I think we absolutely need psychedelics? No, in a normal society. But this is not a normal society. This is a society that has taken a turn in the wrong direction, and we've completely steered away from nature. Nature is our roots. Nature is what connects us to this planet. And we've kind of, built a wall between us. And by taking a psychedelic or something, you're kind of breaking that barrier. Someone who's never been able to get out of the gridlock system of the city can just simply take this plant, and it's like you're hopping on a computer that is just pulling you through the earth and showing you everything, showing you all the beauty that you're missing, and showing you all of the happy things and the things that you should be focusing on, rather than all these problems and things in the past that have been kind of holding you back.
Yeah, I agree with that. I tried to bring that up a little bit in the podcast, that I feel like psychedelics are needed now because it's a last resort. We need to wipe the hard drive and start over. if you had a system that was set up perfectly, which I don't know if we can, but if you had a system set up a little bit better than what we have, a system that embraces nature and it has kind of the same things we talked about in the previous podcast, you know, kids might grow up without needing psychedelics because they would understand nature, they would understand meditation. They might do them for different reasons, not to kind of destroy fears built up inside of us, but rather I want to explore some new things, you know,
Right.
And that's a completely different use. But I guess I kind of see it as like you can take precautions on your laptop to not get a virus. But the problem is our laptop's set up like shit. Our world is set up like shit. So it's like you don't have all the precautions set up and you're doing terrible things to invite viruses. You're going to get a virus and you're going to have to have a last resort solution to that virus because now you have it and it's taking up all this space and it's running the laptop till it almost catches on fire and you need something to get rid of it, and in comes the solution, the software that completely wipes all that out and goes and finds it. That's really what psychedelics is doing. It's going and finding those problems and revealing them to you, and that really is what a medicine should do, isn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is these viruses, you know, some of them are simple things like they kind of just slow us down on life where we're always tired and stuff. But others can be, you know, life destroying, you know, a virus that kind of accesses into your information and kind of just destroys your personality completely.
Dude, I almost said in the podcast that booze or alcohol is the brew of the ego and ayahuasca is the brew of the self.
I mean, that's pretty accurate.
Because she said you purge and you feel good in the morning. With booze, you purge and you feel like shit in the morning. So it's almost like alcohol makes you puke out all the good in you. So all that's left is evil. And then ayahuasca makes you puke out all the evil. So you feel great in the morning.
And you also kind of have to look at like the people who are making this ayahuasca. They live in the jungle and they have thousands of years of connection to the earth. Their bond with earth has never been broken. They are connected to the earth. Whereas the people making, you know, these other antidepressants or alcohol or all these other different things that we use for stress and anxiety and depression, they have no connection to the earth. They're just kind of floating along, coming up with these strange ideas that don't work because it's profitable.
In a lab.
In a lab, yeah. I
mixing chemicals and shit.
Sure, you know, you can approach that argument, well, everything's nature, you know, a lab is still technically nature. Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't mean it's not harmful to you. You know, poison ivy is nature. Rub some on your balls, it's probably not good. You're not going to like it.
You know, I think it is goofy that we got into this point where we think someone in a lab coat in a lab with chemicals and a piece of paper that says they're qualified is somehow a lot better than a guy wearing deerskin loincloth like in the jungle who's been there his whole life experimenting with things himself.
If you look at herbal medicines, you know, not just psychedelics, but other things, you know, herbal teas and stuff, the information and the use of those goes back for thousands of years, okay? So maybe, you know, there's no scientific proof that they work. Maybe they haven't been able to figure it out in a lab. But as far as experience goes and as far as use has gone for thousands of years, just look at the testimonials of people who have used it and it's helped. Thousands, billions, trillions of people have used herbal medicines for thousands of years and they've proved beneficial. But now all of a sudden, some guy in a lab coat comes along and says, "No, they're not good." Well, what the fuck does that guy know? He's just one guy in a lab coat who has no experience with these things at all. He's never used them. He's never tried to experiment with them, and he's never even looked at all the people who have used them. But yet he's trying to push a product to me to help me that was tested on rats. What?
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder if science is really the true science we seek. I think it's more of a perverted, money-driven science, you know? And it's funny how science seems to come to a conclusion and they name it something different. And they go, look, brand new discovery. We just discovered this and we proved it to be right through experiments and things like that. And you're kind of like, wait. A shaman figured the same thing out a long time ago by sitting in a field of grass. And it's just like these scientists are like, it's brand new. And they'll honestly say that person sitting in the grass, no, they didn't come to that conclusion. Like, they didn't do any experiments. Like, so they can't prove it. And it's just like, this is getting weird. Because it's the same fucking thing. The only thing that makes it different is that you say you proved it. And it's just like, what?
It's just like in school, you know, I used to do my math problems. I did them in my head. I put the answer down. Oh, well, you didn't show your work. You're wrong. Like, well, it's the same answer as the person next to me. They got it right. Yeah, well, they showed their work. They proved it. Well, like...
Yeah, it sucks. Science...
Don't get me wrong. I love science. There's a lot of cool stuff
there's
with
good science for sure. But it's just... I have this gut feeling that... And it's the same type of gut feeling I get when people say you need to start trusting your intuition. It's like a warm feeling that, like, my body's trying to tell me something. My mind is trying to communicate something to me. And every time I hear about science and proof and all these weird things, my mind is telling me there is something in this hidden, very deep, that is flawed in science. And it's so complicated and way over your head, and they use terms that you'll never comprehend unless you spend all of your life studying it, that you won't find that flaw. That's the gut feeling I get about science. I don't see it any different than religion, except they wrote it in a way that appeals to people that are a lot more logical. And to me, they're on the same fucking course. They're on the same playing field. Science and religion. It's just one deals with faith and one deals with this thing called proof. And I don't know. I have to study it a little bit more. But I definitely don't like when people are like, hey, science proved this right. And it's just like, what? Really? How about you prove it right? That's why I love the fact that Amber Lyon said, I tried it for myself. She doesn't need a scientist to tell her what it does and does not do. She went and did it. She said, I have these problems. I'll look at the precautions. I'll look at the things that might go wrong, and then I'll make my decision. And she did it, and it worked. That's all the proof you need.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, boy.
Sorry, I went on a little rant there.
No, it was good, though. It was really good. I was going to say something, and I just completely lost my train of thought.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
That was good, man. High energy. We didn't rap, though.
I'm trying to pull this thought. It was a good one. Oh, all right. You'll have to edit that stuff out. But I've been noticing that the way like the world works is kind of like coded into that Fibonacci sequence where it's kind of a spiral, and you know, not only is the spiral line going outward, but it's also going inward. And the way our society is kind of working is like we've kind of closed off that outer circle and the inner circle. So instead of spiraling out and inward, we're just kind of going in a circle. And we're not really getting anywhere. We're just kind of doing the same stupid dance over and over in the same pattern.
Yeah. So I think we dumped out all the ideas in our head for now.
Yeah, my brain's pretty pooped.
Pooped.
This has been podcast number 10 with Amber Lyon.
Excellent number to have Amber Lyon on.
Yeah,
real.
number 10's a powerful number.
Number 10. And it's like we hit a milestone, and it's exciting. So
yeah,
I'm glad that we made it to 10. That's an accomplishment, really. We haven't expected we haven't expected a lot of things out of it. We've just learned a lot of things from it. and we're still pushing through. So it's cool. It's a hobby that we're sticking with. It's not something like I picked up a guitar, I played it for a little bit, and then I set it back down and never touched it again. We made it to 10. Like, we're still going. So that's cool.
We got a lot more planned coming on next week. We're
The
gonna
big
have
one, the showdown.
We're gonna have Penotic Express, the Psychonaut,
Ding, ding,
and
ding.
Uggy, the Blob.
Tag team, son. Ding, ding, ding. Let's
Yeah,
get
so-
ready to rumble.
This is gonna be a just straight out philosophical battleground. with
Battle
all kinds
Royale.
of
I'm
quotes
nervous.
and knowledge being thrown out. So next week's gonna be really intense and
Yeah,
awesome. Really
I
excited.
thought I was going to be nervous for Aubrey and Amber, but shit, man. I think I'm more nervous for Uggy and Penotic on the same podcast.
Yeah, they're gonna be your hosts next week are gonna be Uggy and Penotic. They're gonna take over the show.
I probably. But that's okay, you know. They have a lot of
okay.
information and a lot of knowledge, so glad you guys stuck around with this podcast. I bet you guys are sitting back mind blown, jaw dropped to the floor, but that's what we want to bring every episode. So
Once again, don't forget to go out and talk to your friends about some of the things that you've been connecting with that we're talking about. So if psychedelics or some of our philosophical ideas or something that are kind of in your head as well, go talk to your friends about it. I mean, we love when you send us emails, but it's also just as beneficial for you to talk to your friends about it, talk to your parents about it, talk to anyone about it. Just connect.
And hashtag Mind Movers Podcast. What a perfect opportunity to talk to people and connect with people that use that hashtag, you know? And it's like, it's the opposite of hashtag the family, really. It's a way to connect with people that want to talk about your ideas and not just bullshit about stuff, you know? So you can always just type in hashtag Mind Movers Podcast and look through the feed and you find something interesting and you just connect with that person. You talk to that person. So that's pretty cool. That's definitely an advantage.
Yeah, and we're always checking it and trying to keep in touch with the listeners. Feel free to share your artwork, your thoughts, your questions about the show, anything at all really that's on your mind, and we try as often as possible to respond to them all.
Hell yeah. With that, I'm Steven at youth_thinking.
And I'm Brando at mind_of_peace. _peace.
You fucked it up. Way to go.
I messed up, but it's okay. They'll find me.
It's okay to mess up. That's how we learn.
Yeah, we learn from that.
All right, do it again.
At mind_of_peace. _peace. 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 _peace.